Well, we were expecting this. It has now broken. West Ham United have parted company with their head coach. Let's head to Jeremy Langdon, who is at West Ham's training ground. Jeremy, what more can you tell us?
Yes, well, West Ham have just released this statement about Julen Lopetegui, who actually is still inside. He was taking training again today. He hasn't left. We're hoping to catch him before he does leave. But this is what West Ham is saying tonight about Lopetegui. West Ham United can confirm that head coach Julen Lopetegui has today left the club. The first half of the season has not aligned with the club's ambitions, and the club has therefore taken action in line with its objectives, and also confirming that 5 of Lopetegui's staff are going with him. The board saying they would like to thank Julen and the staff for their hard work during the time with the Hammers and wish them every success for the future. The process of appointing a replacement is underway. The club will be making no further comments at this time. So no mention of Graham Potter, but Julen Lopetegui has tonight left West Ham after 8 points from the last 8 games and only 7 wins from 22 in his time here at the Hammers. Bombshell news, but only confirming what we've been hearing the last few days. Lopetegui on his way out of West Ham.
OK, so now it is official. The club have confirmed it in a statement, Jeremy. Presumably then, worst kept secret in football right now, that paves the way for Graham Potter to become his successor at the London Stadium.
Absolutely. Potter is the man they want. They're offering a 2.5-year deal. Of course, Potter has been out of work since leaving Chelsea in April 2023. He had a great time at Brighton, not so good at Chelsea, where he only won 12 of 31 games, but he's highly regarded. He did some great work at Brighton, establishing them as a top 10 team in the Premier League. He's recharged. He's had other offers, but he's deciding to come, we think, to West Ham to replace Julen Lopetegui. And we're waiting confirmation about West Ham and Graham Potter later on tonight. But Potter's record in the Premier League is this: 142 games in charge, 41 wins, 51 draws and 50 losses. West Ham, they want him to replace Lopetegui.
Thanks very much indeed, Jeremy. As you can see, I'm being joined by our senior reporter, Rob Dorset. Before I get to you, Rob, we can just recap the breaking news that's... Well, it's only been the last 10 minutes or so that West Ham have parted company with their head coach, Julen Lopetegui. He has left the club today. They confirmed in a statement saying the first half of the 2024-25 season has not aligned with the club's ambitions, and so the club has therefore taken action in line with its objectives. His backroom staff has gone as well. So that's the assistant head coach, the head of performance, the head analyst, fitness coach and technical coach. And they want to thank him for his time and wish him every success for the future. It says here, Rob, the process of appointing a replacement is underway.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking that underway is maybe underplaying how far they've got along?
In my understanding, it is, yes. Yeah. And look, it's one of those really difficult situations because there's a human being involved here, and we have to remember that. Yeah, and you have to think about Julen Lopetegui's feelings right now. 7 months into a big job for him, and he's lost his job. But it is kind of normal for elite clubs to have a succession plan in place of managers they might like to appoint should they decide to change the manager. That's not unusual. It's not tapping up. It's kind of what goes on right across football. But this has felt a little bit different, hasn't it? Because when Julen Lopetegui came in to take West Ham training today, it seemed ludicrous because we knew, the players he was coaching knew, everybody in the world of football seemed to know that he was a dead man walking, that he wasn't going to be walking out of West Ham's training ground today as West Ham's manager. It must have been an incredibly difficult situation for him. And in the meantime, Graham Potter, waiting in the wings, agreed the terms of a 2.5-year contract, just waiting to sign it, waiting for West Ham to do what they've just done, which is sack Julen Lopetegui so that he can come in as the new man. OK, so, yes, and you're absolutely right, because, you know, as you mentioned the last time we spoke, even, you know, perhaps the harshest West Ham fan would have some degree of sympathy for Julen Lopetegui, so that is understood. But what we are talking about the next man who's likely to be through the door, and that is Graham Potter. And the phrase I've heard come up in the last couple of days is, it's a good fit. Yeah.
So why are people saying that?
I think because the timing works for both. And look, let's be honest, West Ham are in a bit of a mess right now. They got rid of David Moyes, they brought in Julen Lopetegui, they've sacked him within 7 months. They need a bit of stability right now. This is, in Graham Potter, their third manager in 8 months. However you dress that up for a Premier League club, that doesn't make for good reading, does it? And so it is a good fit because Graham Potter, we know, wants a project. He wants to be at a club for a long time. He, as I understand it, has agreed a 2.5-year contract at West Ham United, which gives him the time that he needs, and it gives West Ham the time to say, OK, come in and be a success. I think it's a good fit because Graham Potter is ready to get back into management. And I think from West Ham's perspective, the owners and the fans will like the brand of football that he plays, the fact that he promotes youth, the fact that he tries a progressive, quite academic view of football, which I think most West Ham fans will appreciate when they see it enacted out on the pitch. So the issues they had with perhaps David Moyes and his playing style, as successful and effective as it was, they probably won't have with Graham Potter. But can he get that instant success that he absolutely requires? I've been looking at West Ham's fixtures coming up, David. This will intrigue you. 5 of West Ham's next 6 Premier League matches are London derbies. And guess what's in the middle of one of those? A return to Stamford Bridge. Mark it in your diaries, February the 3rd. If things go as we plan and we expect, then Graham Potter is the West Ham manager in the next few hours. That will become a red letter day for every sports fan. Graham Potter returning to his old club Stamford Bridge, where he was sacked 7 months into a 5-year contract, where he'd been given the scope to completely regenerate the football department, go in with a new plan, all of that cut adrift. There will be no man on this planet more motivated than the new West Ham manager to try and turn over his old team. So I think it is a good fit. I think clearly David Sullivan and Graham Potter have spent a lot of time together in the last 24, 48 hours. They've been talking to him for quite a time. I know they first spoke to Graham Potter and sounded him out several months ago. So this isn't a knee-jerk reaction from West Ham. Potter has been very much in their thoughts. And you'd have to say from West Ham's perspective, however critical you might be of the way they've handled the logistics of this situation, they've probably got a bit of a coup here in getting Graham Potter to become their new manager. Because you and I have talked over the last couple of hours about some of the teams he's been very close to taking over with, the opportunities he's had at Ajax, potentially AC Milan, Leicester, Southampton, other big Premier League clubs, other managerial opportunities right across the world. He's very highly thought of in the world of football. He turned all of those down and he's taken West Ham. They're doing something right.
OK. You mentioned earlier about him liking being involved in a project, being able to help build something, create something, a bit like what he did with Brighton, which then, of course, we saw Roberto De Zerbi, etc., and now Fabian Hutzler develop even further. So is this a man who almost prefers the journey to the destination a little bit? Because you talk about Ajax, it might not be as hard for him to win an Eredivisie. AC Milan always have had trophies galore in their past, but is this a man who, and if so, then how do we judge his success ultimately? Is it just staying up and incrementally improving this football club, or does he need a trophy to prove it?
That's a key question for West Ham supporters, and I think I can't wait to hear from them. I mean, they're already starting to... Well, they've been talking a lot over the last 48 hours on social media since we broke the news that we expected Graham Potter to be the next West Ham manager. What you've just described is something that West Ham had under David Moyes.
Yeah.
Consistent season finishes in the top half of the Premier League. And I think that's a heck of an achievement for a club like West Ham, because, absolutely no disrespect to them, but there are 8 powerhouses of European and world football now at the top of this Premier League. The big 6 that we talk about all the time, but I think you've got to throw Newcastle and Aston Villa in there as well. So any club that isn't a part of those 8, that finishes 9th or 10th in the Premier League, in my eyes, has had a really good season. Yeah. So David Moyes did a fantastic job at West Ham, and he won them their first ever European trophy, the Europa Conference League. If Graham Potter can repeat that sort of success with the style and brand of football that he brings, West Ham fans will be absolutely delighted. I speak to quite a few West Ham fans who say, yeah, we had good results, we got performances, we won a trophy under David Moyes, but he wasn't progressive, he didn't bring young players through, we didn't like the way he played football. Be careful what you wish for sometimes.
But this is it, right? Because, you know, there seems to be an increasing focus on the style of play, on the philosophy of play. When you know, especially the younger coaches, and especially someone like a Fabian Hutzler who's come in and has a way that he wants to play, and we're seeing, you know, more or less the results of that with Brighton. But I wonder, with Potter, how much, you know, does he need to be then therefore ninth at minimum? Or is it this year, OK, let's just make sure we stay up. We'll take 13th place.
I think realistically, what you've just described at the latter part of that is absolutely right. Look, West Ham fans will be looking nervously over their shoulders right now and thinking, we're not that far out of a relegation battle here. And look, the last two results have been against Liverpool and Manchester City, where they've lost heavily. Before that, they didn't have a bad run of form under Lopetegui, and it took them away from danger a little bit.
Yeah.
But look, it's a 2.5-year contract that Graham Potter is signing, I believe. He has some time. The rest of this season has to be about him getting the squad to understand his philosophy and buy into his methods. It has to be about getting enough short-term results to get them away from the relegation places and into safety. It has to be about him looking at the squad, trying to decide which players he wants to keep, which are going to be integral to him, which ones maybe don't fit his style of play. And then in the summer, the first big transfer window that he will have, then it's got to be, right, change the squad. I want these out, I want these in, then we can push forward. So I think you have to judge Graham Potter's time at West Ham, if you're being honest and realistic, next season.
Yeah.
When he's had a full pre-season, he's got his feet under the table, he's got to know the squad.
Yeah.
The problem
and
is
a couple of transfer windows to try and remodel
the problem
things.
is, managers don't get that luxury in football. Lopetegui got 7 months. There's a parallel here. He got 7 months at West Ham. Graham Potter got 7 months at Chelsea. Both of them big jobs, exciting jobs, projects for both of them. 7 months later, they're out of their ear and looking for another job. So let's be realistic. He has to get results quickly. But I think if you're an honest West Ham fan, and if you're David Sullivan, for example, you have to say, OK, get yourself established, get us safe, let's start building something, and then next year we really have a go. The other thing to mention is he won't have an awful lot of money to spend on the transfer window this month in January, and probably not in the summer either, unless he can move some players out, because they spent over £100 million in the summer on transfers. And they're not in danger, I understand, when it comes to PSR and the spending limits, but they haven't got a lot of wiggle room there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be...
he has to try and extract the value from this current squad. And do you sense he can do that? Because Julen Lopetegui was brought in because, well, they didn't want the David Moyes style of football. They wanted something better. Maybe he couldn't deliver that. But Graham Potter is the man that they do think, and many people think, should be able to do that. Is this squad capable of, giving him that value that, so he can play the football he wants?
He believes so.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be taking this job, because he's had other options. He thinks it's a very good squad, as I understand it, that he can take places. But look, it depends which Graham Potter you get. If you talk to Chelsea fans, they're not greatly enamoured with the job that he did at Chelsea.
It's true.
If you talk to Brighton fans, if you talk to Swansea fans or Östersunds fans, they say, do you know, he brought young players through, he had a great style of football. His CV is very, very impressive, right up until the point where he got a really big job at Chelsea and then it went horribly wrong. So this is a big opportunity, but a big expectation on Graham Potter. He's decided to come back into management at this point. He has to make it a success. He knows his career needs to be resurrected a little bit after the damaging episode he had at Chelsea. He hopes West Ham can be that club that helps him rebuild that reputation.
We should just say, for absolute clarity, he hasn't yet been appointed as Julen Lopetegui's successor. We're talking as if he is, because obviously all of the kind of received wisdom and, the sources that we have are telling us that this is very close. And, we've been talking about this for a few days now. However, we are waiting for the club to confirm, like they have this man's departure.
Let me be specific about that.
Yeah.
I understand all is agreed between the contract.
Yeah.
It's been ready to be signed for several hours. He's waited to sign it until Julen Lopetegui has been sacked. So I would fully expect Graham Potter to be signing that West Ham contract as I speak to you right now.